Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of City on a Hill. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with kind of the raw side of the family situation. So first and foremost, you have Jackie getting screwed over by Karen, that basically she's kind of putting a ball, busting another, dude's balls, because basically he's in a situation where he's trying to position himself so that when he does kind of transfer over to the private sector, but Karen is kind of screwing him over unless he does something about Jackie. So Jackie's basically getting transferred. The way they're talking about it is basically somewhere here in North Carolina, somewhere I'd actually never heard of before, I think. But regardless, for him, it's like, no, I'm staying here. I'm the face of the FBI and stuff like that, but it's like, yeah, you're kind of screwed. Basically, you're out of here by the end of the week or something like that. And Karen basically rubs it in his face, which he kind of references Nixon and stuff like that. It's like, oh, all those shovels that were kind of ready for him, and he kind of turned those against everybody. And what was waiting for him? Impeachment and stuff like that. But he was like, yeah, but still, regardless of the impeachment and everything, it still ended up being something that ended up being held over DC's heads and stuff like that. So Karen's kind of wishing him good luck and stuff like that. So Jackie, obviously, then we see and I've talked about it time and time again, it blows my mind. Jackie can be such an asshole, but then he has moments where you're like, oh, you can actually be a good, decent human being. You can be a good guy when you want to be, especially when it comes to his family. Because Benny went to a party. In fact, her and Jenny actually got matching tattoos, or no, I don't know if they got matching tattoos. At the very least, they got tattoos around on their ankles and stuff like that. Because a conversation came up, with Maeve about tattoos and stuff like that, and Jenny was initially like no, but then it was also Jenny was thinking about, well, my mom didn't let me get a tattoo. You know what? Fuck my mom. And so it's like, yeah, let's go get tattoos. But Benny was going to a party and she was kind of nervous about it, and her mom was like, oh, no, you can go. And Benny didn't have as much fun because obviously everything with Clay and everything is just, it's still there. So she's not drinking. She has to lie to her friend. They're like, how many guys have you been with? She was like, no one, zero, saying she's still a virgin. And so it's no one from school or whatever knows, or none of her friends know about what happened to her. So kind of showing that it's still something she's keeping to herself, aside from her family, because they're like, oh, we thought you got pregnant, that's why you're, it's like, no, I got invited to this dancing thing, and it's like, oh, your parents are so cool and stuff like that. So she makes an excuse I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and then she just ended up leaving the party just because she doesn't feel normal anymore. It's after what she went through, how do you adjust to a normal life? So she even talked to her mom about it. Her mom's like, no, I trust that you didn't do drugs or drink or anything. I just want to know if you had fun. And for her, it's like, well, how do you ever get back to normal? And then she talks about, I don't know if you ever really do. And then Jackie comes in, and he's like, no, let's kind of talk about it. And Jenny's like, yeah, it's because Benny was asking her because, she knows her mom went through it. Not the same thing, but at least a somewhat similar experience. So, but then Jackie talks about the fact is, obviously, terrible shit happening to you comes in all shapes and sizes. And he opens up about, and it's something Benny had asked him about previously. He talked about his dad, and it's like, oh, my mom, that's a whole other story. And he opens up about her. He talked about her a little bit last season, but we got even more on her this season, where he was like, oh yeah, she told me 1,000 times to close the door, and she put my hand in the door and she closed it again and again to the point my hand went numb from the pain. And he was talking about the fact that she was there, it was her teaching me a lesson. He's like, and that's the night I burned the house down. Even I was like, oh, last season he said his mom's the one that burned the house down. And because even Jenny was taken aback by it. She was like, whoa, Jackie, you've always told me your mom did. He's like, she did, didn't she? That basically saying her abuse led to him burning down the house. So it's not as much on him, that it's his mom's actions that led to everything. He even talked about the fact is that burning down the house, he was thinking oh yeah, all I could think about was a family that was going to adopt me and the new bike I was immediately going to get. But his parents came out of the house, and it's oh, they didn't even check to see if I was safe. It's but in that moment, he's they knew that I burned the house down, that I'm the one that set fire to that sofa. And it's just this moment where Jenny and Benny are looking because Jackie's never opened up like this, and being vulnerable like this. And I'm and like I said, in this moment, because why he's doing it. He's doing it to make Benny feel okay. And he says did that make me a bad kid? No. Does it make you a bad kid, Benny? No. The fact of the matter is sometimes he's basically saying it takes courage to kind of move past and kind of go go forward from the shit that happens to you in life. And he's like, you, Benny, you've got a crap ton of, like, you know, courage, so you're going to be okay. And then Benny's kind of tearing up, and she hugs her down. I was like, that's actually a beautiful moment. Like, the fact of the matter is, he tried, you know, because that's his way of kind of making things up. Because, like, you know, it's like, you know, making amends and stuff like that. And, you know, because he wanted to share that trauma, because it was like, I want to make sure you're okay, that it's okay that you feel this way, because it's like, he wants her to know, it's like, hey, you're not the only one that's got some shit. Your mom's got some shit. I got some shit. Like, we're all kind of dealing with shit in our own way, you know? But that was a beautiful moment of, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, he can be such a good guy when it comes to being a dad, you know. But even later on, him and Jenny, it's like, he's like, oh, why are, you know, Rose, she's like, because the petals are beautiful, but also thorns, they'll, like, you know, stab you if you grab them. And he's like, oh yeah, prove it. And they kind of do their thing, and you're like, hey, I thought he screwed it up last episode when he was suggesting, like, the threesome with Maeve. But it's like, yeah, like, legitimately, Jackie's on his way to restoring kind of like his relationship, you know, his family to a certain extent. Obviously, because I can't remember. I think it was last episode. I didn't talk about it because I watched both episodes today, and they're kind of blurring together a little bit. I want to say it was last episode. Jenny had asked Jackie about her dad. He was like, yeah, I sent him packing, because she was almost wondering, like, well, did you kind of make him disappear like Clay Roach? But it's like, no, he's still alive. But even like, oh, because she always wondered whatever happened to her dad, you know, because later on it was like, she asked her mom about it. She was like, oh, I thought you said dad was dead. She's like, yeah, dead to me. But it sounds like he was always asked for money from time to time, because of the whole thing with Benny and everything. It made Jenny want to try and, you know, deal with some of the stuff she's dealing with. So she's trying to actually be there for her mom, getting her mom groceries and stuff like that. But then she hears from her mom about, like, oh, her dad's still alive. It's like, well, you said he was dead, and it's yada, yada, yada. Mom kind of being an asshole about it. So she was like, you know what? Fuck you, Mom, and kind of bounces, because it's like, oh, you want to know information about your dad? It's like, I mean, but it's like, well, I won't give you any information because you're the reason why I'm here stuck with my whore sister. Apparently, they don't even share groceries. It's like, yeah, her shit is her shit, mine's mine. But it's like, oh, we can negotiate something like that. And it's like, really? After everything, you're still being shitty about things, Rosa. So she's like, I'll find them on my own. So I think that's definitely going to be something Jenny deals with later on. So the question then becomes like, well, what is Jenny going to do? Is Jenny going to do something to her dad? And is Jackie going to end up having to cover it up for her to protect her, or what? We see how Jackie handled the Clay Roach thing. Like, I'm curious, after all of these years, like, when she confronts him, like, what Jenny plans on getting out of it, you know. Maybe there's going to be conversations about what Jackie did, you know. Hopefully, because there's a part of me that's like hopeful that it's not like a thing of he just paid him off and has been paying him off the entire time. I hope it is a thing of like, oh yeah, like Jackie beat the living shit out. Like, I think we saw how he handled the Clay Roach thing. I'm surprised he didn't handle that the same way, but it could just be a thing of, oh, he handled it in a similar way. He just didn't go as far as he did when it came to Benny, as he did, like, cause Jenny, he probably just beat the shit up. Maybe, I don't know. I just hope it isn't a thing of like, you're paid him off. I hope it is a thing of like, yeah, you beat the shit out of him until he promised never to come back around. But even like, Rosa's kind of talking like, oh, she's still relatively, like, in recent years been in contact with him, and he's been wanting money, so there's that side of things. So there's that. Then on the other side of things, obviously there's the, you know, situation between DeCourcy and Siobhan about the whole Anton thing, even them in court, you know, because obviously it's like, you know, like DeCourcy's boss is like, yeah, your wife is working this case, like, who, you guys share pillow talk. It's like, no, if my wife is going to go for, like, you know, running for counsel and stuff like that, she's going to get there on her own. We're not going to skew this thing. I'm going to work the case the best I can. I'm going to work towards a conviction. She's going to do her thing. But even they've been like, hey, one of us is going to be a winner, one of us is going to be a loser. It just kind of sucks, but it's just like the law, if we're going to work, if the law has to be the same way across the board for everyone. It can't just skirt the rules just to make exceptions, because if it, you know, then what's the point of the law if we just kind of like let it kind of do its thing on a basic, like, if we just kind of let it be a situation of let it only apply to certain people. Same thing for getting justice. Like, you know, it's like if we don't, you know, get justice when the time is actually necessary, when it comes through, then kind of, you know, also what's the point of that? So it's them kind of saying like, despite how things go down, we're both going to give it our all in court in the next days, you know. So, and obviously we see it because they don't hold any bars back. They go at each other Probably not as hard as they probably would have if the opposition on each side was different. If they were going up against anyone else. But I think they held their punches, but I think they still kind of went at it. So it is a situation where Anton does get bail, but it's like $25,000, and even Grace is like, she only needs 10%, which is $2,500. But the problem is getting that money. She doesn't have it on her end. She tried to like talk, but the judge was like, I know that you're a pillar of the community and stuff like that, but the fact is, you're not going to talk here. Like, the situation is what it is. So, and that was kind of an interesting side of things with Grace, where Grace was trying to talk to people, get stuff associated and taken care of, but she's lost a lot of face and reputation, because for a lot of people, it's like, oh, you're willing to help deal with other crimes as long as it was something that doesn't involve your children, because lately your children have been mixed up in a lot of stuff. So it kind of has made a lot of people look at dealing with her like, oh, I can, now you want to get some stuff done, I can get it done for you, but I ain't gonna lie to you, like people running their mouths off about you behind your back, And obviously even getting the money, getting a loan necessary, like the guy she kind of put in his place at the beginning of the season, like, oh, it's like, yeah, call your boss. Oh, he knows who I am. He shut you down real quick. She was on the other foot now, where he's like, yeah, my boss knows exactly. Yeah, it's like, but you might not be part of like the association for long. He's being a complete utter dick about it and telling her to go somewhere else if she wants to try and get a loan. And that, because that's not working. She's even asking like Leon, which I think asking. Well, I think because the subtitle was saying like his name's Isaiah. I thought I was looking at it saying like Leon, but maybe I was mistaken. But Isaiah, she was asking him for money to try and like talk to like the others, but it was like, yeah, he can't really, because if he tries to get the money, it's going to look a certain way. But there's also a good chance they'll say no just because of the optics of it. But even like calling Grace out, being like, because it's like, Grace is like, did you know about my son? So he's like, yeah, I kind of had a feeling. It's like, but you also had to have some feeling on some shape or form, Grace. You just weren't willing to see it. And she's like, yeah, you were right. Probably on some level, I did know what my boys were up to, but, because it also would have meant failing as a parent. And, I think no parent wants to really believe themselves. It's just like she wanted to kind of believe the good in her kids, but it's also like, it's like considering everything that she's a part of, what she preaches, what she believes, like no one wants to kind of believe the worst in their kids, but it's like on some level you knew you were just turning a blind eye to it. But even Isaiah being like, yeah, but it's like, it's understandable why you would, like anyone under your circumstances kind of would. So to the point, to get the money, she ends up signing a check for the association. They don't back her doing that, but it's like, while she has the opportunity, she takes the money and is able to get Anton out. Which I even love that scene where DeCourcy came to Anton and was like, oh yeah, the fact of the matter is, like Siobhan's going to try and get you transferred somewhere. Siobhan came to you about the fact is I try to offer you a plea deal, and he was like, yeah, you're going to end up somewhere else. But the fact is, like DeCourcy was going at him, saying the fact is that to get the position where you are right now means like, oh, you had to wait for so-and-so to, get arrested. But then also it's like it had to be a bloody battle to get to like this position and stuff like that. You had to fight all the other people who wanted to take over. So he's suggesting like, if I can't get you for, Junior, if I can't get you for, Raina, I sure as hell can get you, because I'm sure there's other bodies. And he was like, he was talking mad shit. I even love that, like, he was talking mad shit earlier in the episode, and like, and talking mad shit about DeCourcy, and like, Siobhan had to be like, first and foremost, that's my husband you talking about, because he was like, oh, that punk ass dude from Brooklyn. He's like, oh, that ain't my fault. She's like, you're gonna want me to do the best that I can, and so to get the best out of me, better keep my damn husband's name out your damn mouth. It's like, yo. Because she was saying, like, you better be on your P's and Q's and stuff like that. And he was like, okay, yes, ma'am, and stuff like that. It's like, why are you being so, like, why are you talking shit to DeCourcy? Like, you want Siobhan to be, happy and stuff like that. But it's like, also, like, he's such a, I don't know what it is. Like, I think he just thinks he's like, oh, I'm so hot shit. I'm like, why? Where are you getting that from? Like, why do you think he's so cool? Like, you're so untouchable that you can just kind of just say whatever you want. Because I guess he was thinking like, oh, like Siobhan's going to defend me no matter what. It's like, she made the choice to like defend you. Like, if she wanted to, I think she could just bail on this if she wanted to. So that's why I'm like, I don't know. So once again, it's just like, he's a smart criminal, but at the same time, it's like he does and says stuff that I'm like, I guess it's just like, once again, it's like when you're at the top of the food chain, you're just so cocky, you think you're hot shit. So I guess that's kind of all that is. But another interesting angle was the fact is, Kelvin came across Junior, and before he was going to pull up on Junior, but then like a school bus out, I was like, please don't, Kelvin, like, because someone else is going to catch a stray, and luckily he doesn't pull out, because it's like, obviously he was only wanting to do all that because like Anton was pushing for it last episode, but obviously it's like he doesn't want more stray, anyone else. He doesn't want another Raina thing. He doesn't want, and that moment, like if that bus hadn't rolled up, he probably would have shot at Junior. Who knows what could have happened, All we know is what didn't happen, how things are playing out now. So there's no telling how terrible things would have been, because they would have been terrible if he'd actually gone off with it and shot Junior. But Grace, like I had brought up earlier, ended up signing that check. It ended up getting Anton released, and he was like, yeah, lockup was kind of nothing, but she kind of gets pissed because for her, it's like, all that you do, like, do you recognize, like, what I had to do just to get you the money? He's like, you should have come to me. She's like, I'm not going to take your drug money. Do you know who I am? Do you know who you are? She's like, the fact of the matter is, like, having my sons like do all this shady stuff, it's like, we need to talk, because all this stuff you did, like when you kind of go out here in the world, because for him, it is something I brought up before, like I was questioning whether or not he was legitimately doing this for his mom, like he was kind of claiming, because it seemed like, you seem like that's not the case, considering like, like stuff went down and your mom could have gotten caught in a crossfire, but you weren't too concerned about it last episode when Kelvin kind of brought it to you. But maybe he was a lot more concerned and he kind of let it on. But maybe that's also the thing of like, yeah, because mom could have gotten struck, I'm going to even more so reason why, like, because Marco ended up got because of the last episode. So maybe for him it's even more so a reason like, yeah, let me take care of things on this front now. But for him, it's like, I remember you looking at all those books and stuff like that, Mom. So the fact is, like, I know how kind of important it is to get out of here. Because that was a conversation, too, of, like, she could have left, like, Roxbury, but it's like, she chose not to because, like, someone had to stay behind to do what was necessary, So she has to stay behind and do all this, but that's why she's doing her best to try and make sure her kids are able to get out, that they have a future outside of all of this. I'll be the one to stick around and do what I need to do, but you guys go out there, live your life, build a life for yourself. That's what she wants more so than anything. But obviously, Anton's like, everything he's doing, he's like, I'm good at what I do. Once again, he's feeling himself like, yeah, I'm hot shit when it comes to all this. So he's planning on getting the money necessary for his, like, the moment, because he was even saying, the moment he was like, oh yeah, it's this DA's fault. I was like, how the hell is this the DA's fault? The DA's fault that you got caught. It ain't like he caught you on some BS. He caught you for the stuff that you're actually doing. That's why I'm like, I think it's so interesting, because it's like, you're the one that's in the wrong, but I guess it's because, of course, he's the one running his mouth to you. He's challenging you. You don't appreciate that. Plus, he's the one complicating things, ruining everything. If he had never caught you, and if of course he wasn't going as hard as he was about Anton and everything they're up to, then I guess none of this would be happening. So I guess that's his justification. But once again, it's like, you're the one that's in the wrong here, and you're pissed that of course he's coming at you, even though he has the rights to, because he's in the right and you're in the wrong. But the moment he was like, yeah, the DA's a problem, I was like, you're gonna try and roll up on DeCourcy. The moment that happened, I was like, shit, it's not DeCourcy that's going to get hurt. It's going to be Siobhan. The whole thing with the baby, it's definitely going to, like, she's probably going to end up losing the baby. I was like, no, please don't do that. And because he was saying, like, I placed a bet on the Celtics, so I'm going to go get that money. The moment he was saying, I was like, he's about to roll up on DeCourcy. And he does. And Siobhan gets shot. Luckily, they were able to help her. It seems like the baby's okay at the end of the day. DeCourcy's taking it upon himself because I think it's kind of interesting, and this ends up being a parallel that gets created, is the fact is that, like the Clay Roach situation kind of being a situation born from Jackie's actions, this is a situation born from him going at Anton as hard as he did, ended up leading to this. And so he ends up not telling Siobhan what happened. Her parents know that it was Anton, but there was that cop giving him shit, being like, oh, you're the one that was about that Saint blah 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 commissions, plus you're also the one that let Jimmy Ryan go. And it's like, what's that supposed to mean? It's like, oh, karma shithead or something like that. He's like, wait, what did the motherfucker say to me? It's like, why you gotta be such a piece of shit? But it's because in his mind, it's like, oh, it's like, who says that after someone's wife got shot and stuff like that? It's like, it's like, yeah, but he's a cop from Charlestown. It's like, who cares? I was like, that's just shitty on his part. It was like, such an asshole. That was just a shitty thing to say and do. So, of course, he already felt a lot of guilt about this. So Eloise and her husband were saying, like, don't blame yourself. But he was like, well, who do I blame then, So it's a thing of he's like, I'm not going anywhere without my wife, and you can tell it's like, oh, he's going to be gunning for Anton. And what was really surprising is when Jackie shows up, and Jackie's like, yo, is Siobhan okay? He's like, yeah, I know we got beef, but Siobhan, he's like, yeah, she never deals with, she never like, she calls me out on my bullshit. He's like, not like you don't, but he's like, but she goes about it softer, in the softer means. And he's like, yo, if you need me to, I'll take care of this. Like, Jackie's legitimately like, no, I got this for you. Who is it? It was Anton. I'm gonna find him. I can make him disappear for you. And of course, he's like, no, what are you doing? Like, anything you ever do, like, the fact is, it's for yourself. And he kind of calls Jackie out. Jackie's like, honestly, you're right. I am a piece of shit or something like that. I'm like, what? Even of course, he's like, wait, what? What's happening here? Like, Jackie, he's like, is this you trying to turn over a new leaf? And he was like, no, this is me making an adjustment, you know, because for him, it's like someone coming after somebody's wife. It's because of what happened to Benny. I think that makes him feel like, no, I understand what it's like when someone you care, you know, it's like, we've had our beef, we've had our issues, but he's like actually legitimately trying to be there for the course. I'm like, what are you doing? And then he goes to Karen about this, and he's like, all right, let me get on top of this, like, DeCourcy wife case. I was like, why do you want this so badly? He's like, yeah, I just want to get justice for DeCourcy. And it's like, you're doing everything you can to screw him over. And it's like, yeah, he was even saying like, hey, it's kind of like a two-way street of us trying to fuck each other over. And he was like, no, it's a one-way street, Jackie, and I'm driving now. But it was just like so crazy, like considering like the bad blood they had, and now it's like, oh, they're on better terms again. I was like, this is a development I wasn't really expecting. I was like, that's interesting, especially after everything last season, especially after Hank. But to be fair, of course, he's like really pissed, and it's like it's like, this is an opportunity. Jackie's offering help. It's like, fine, you're actually legitimately winning me over. You actually seem sympathetic. Because even Karen's like, what are you going to benefit from this? And even later on, he's like, yeah, I pleaded with her. Fact of the matter is, told her I wanted to get you justice, you know, and even brought up Hank, which we didn't see that part of the conversation. So I guess he added that just to add more flair to it for DeCourcy. But even DeCourcy was like, and did she laugh at you? And then like Jackie was like, yeah, a little bit, you know. So it's like even she wasn't buying his BS. But he's saying like, oh, I'm getting transferred. I want the last case I work on to be. So I guess if he's able to take down Anton and make things good, he's probably thinking of using it as his advantage of like, okay, I'm going to use this as goodwill, and Karen can't get rid of me because I'll come out looking like the good guy in this. So if I come out looking good, no stank on me or anything like that, then she'll let me stay here. So it's like, yes, he's using this to his advantage, but at the same time, it is a situation where at the very least, it is the thing that kind of like, it makes you question its motives when it's like, oh, so you are planning on getting something out of this, so it's not as like above board, but at the same time, it's like, Jackie's trying his best. Yes, he's going to benefit from it, but you got to admit, he's trying at the very least, and I think that in itself speaks volumes. I'm like, wow. So those two are joining forces on this, which I loved. Of course, he was like, okay, don't handle this like your cowboy Jackie Roar shit. We do this above board. We do it legal. No lies. Yada yada. Jackie's like, sure. And then he immediately rolls up on Grace and like, where the fuck is Anton? Put a gun to her face. It's like, literally just told you, Jackie, not to do your usual BS. We will see. It's gonna turn ugly. Like, I think legitimately Jackie is going to try and do the right thing, but it's going to come back and screw them all over. I know it. It's just like, oh, Jackie, you can never do anything right. You kind of have to like always halfway screw up everything. So we'll see how this all turns out. I'm assuming because last season was 10 episodes, we're already at the halfway point to the season, so that's going to be interesting. There's also another angle to it, like Kathy, you know, it's like, oh, she needs the money, so she's kind of taking over things for Jimmy, so it's like, hey, but, you know, it's like, where's Anton? It's like, are you a cop, lady? It's like, stop calling me lady. She's like, yo, here's the money, and they're like, oh, you a cop or whatever? And then he's like, oh, you know, we could just jack you, and then she pulls the gun on the guy, I think his name's Isaiah, and he's like, oh, well, she's not a cop. But Kelvin doesn't want to sell to her right now. To be fair, there's a lot of heat coming down on them because of Anton. Plus, Kelvin's gotten locked up. Well, or at least arrested too. So it's like, there's eyes on them. But then Isaiah shows up later on, offering Kathy money. And she's like, how'd you even know where I live? You know, how'd you know I got kids? I'm like, is it because Jimmy was off running his mouth? Or has home dude been keeping an eye on her? Or what? Part of me was like, you don't think he saw that she's the one that popped Jimmy, do you? Maybe that's why she's willing to do business with him, because it's like, oh, like, you try and screw me over, I screw you over because I saw you kill your brother-in-law. it's just interesting because he knows exactly where she lives and everything. So I think he might have followed Jimmy, or at least be aware of something. Because it's like, how the hell do you know where I live and everything? Not unless she knows who Kathy is. Not unless he knows who Kathy is. Like, just because it's like, oh, because of everything that went down in Charlestown last season. That. But I'm thinking it's more so like he was probably there. He probably saw her pop Jimmy. So we'll see where things kind of go in that front. It's going to be interesting to see where ultimately all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.